Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Okay, so we saw the second sutra last time. Okay. Completed it. And I said this today will be part of the class, at least we'll go in clarifying all questions and summarizing. So, any questions on the whole sutra? Janmadhyasya yataha. Any questions, clarifications? Okay, let me ask. What do you think is the intention of the sutra?
To define Brahman.
To?
Define Brahman.
Define Brahman. And why do you need to define Brahman?
Because earlier we had said Brahma
Athato
Jignasa.
Brahma Jignasa.
We had said Athato Brahma Jignasaha. So the first sutra set up the context. Okay? It set up the adhikari by the first word Atha. Then what you need to do, go to the Guru, etc. was set up with the second word. Okay? And Brahma Jignasa Kartavya Mokshartam. That's much was. Okay? So natural Akanksha is Kim Tad Brahman. What is that Brahman? How does the Shruti define Brahman? And why was Tatastha Lakshana given and not Swarupa Lakshana? Because Janmadhyasya says Tatastha Lakshana. Why is Tatastha Lakshana given, not Swarupa Lakshana? Why not say Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma?
From Tatastha we can easily go to Swarupa Lakshana. From Tatastha to Swarupa Lakshana easy to go.
Yeah.
And actually what is standing against us this
Also to understand manifestation and that Ishvara is both Nimitta and Upadana Karana.
So, but why not straight away say Brahman is Satyam Jnanam Anantam? Because that's what you want to know.
Because
we have taken the creation to be there. So
Beg your pardon?
we have taken the fact that there is a creation. So starting from that first part.
Yeah.
So where we are, starting from where
So
we
yeah,
are.
because if I directly say Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman, creation will be left out. Whereas if I quote, if Vyasa quotes Janmadhyasya yato imani bhutani jayante, then in the context itself Swarupa Lakshana comes as Anandam Brahman. And from there you can go to Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Okay, contextually. Because remember, this is an analysis of the Upanishad Vakyas. That's why everywhere I shown you what Vakyas are involved. Okay, so you need to see that connection. Why is it not Anumanam? That was one of the major arguments, no? That this is not Anumana Siddham.
We can't establish there is a creation to begin with, Swamiji. So
Yeah. Okay.
you can't
All
can't
right.
infer that Brahman is the Jagat Karana. It has to be revealed by the Shruti.
Okay. So give me some arguments why we cannot establish Jagat Karanatvam by Anumanam.
because Vyapti is not there.
Huh?
Vyapti is not there.
What is that?
Vyapti is not there.
What is a Vyapti? That's a good argument. What is a Vyapti?
Because wherever the Jagat is there, Brahman we can't prove that.
Yeah.
Because only we can see the Jagat, not the Brahman. Therefore
Yes.
the data will be not visible. That connection will be not be there.
The connection between Jagat and Brahman is not seen, nor is any data available to make a Vyapti. That this creation is by this Brahman. Okay? This is over and above the fact that creation cannot be established itself. Because Prak and Pradvamsa and Prak Abhava is not seen by you. Over and above that, even to establish Nimitta Karana. So even when religion says, there is a God sitting somewhere, created some, how do you see that connection? That God created this. You don't see it. It is purely belief. Okay, purely belief. Yeah. Unless
That Pratyaksha is not there, is it?
unless there is some logic given to explain away what is said. It becomes belief if only it is said and left. Unless there is an explanation, a valid or you can validate it. One of the two things should be necessary. Okay.
So that means Swamiji, Pratyaksha Pramanam is needed.
How do you say with Pratyaksha Pramanam that Ishvara is Jagat Karanam? Do you see a connection?
No, we don't have Pratyaksha Pramanam. That
Exactly.
is what I am saying.
So then if you are going to the Shastra, either it will become a belief or it will become Paroksha Jnana.
So Swamiji, actually this belief has also come halfway house from the Shastra only.
Yeah. Yeah, I am now making it a bit more global than just
Correct.
the Shastra here
Correct.
in Sanatana. Okay. That means what? Is your Ishvara Jnanam always Paroksha Jnanam? Yeah, so Rohit Singh is right, supporting logic is required. Yep. So is Ishvara Paroksha Jnanam?
But till you come to Vedanta, it is Paroksha.
Yeah.
Swami.
Till you come to Vedanta. All right. Now Vedanta says, okay, Ishvara is abhinna nimutta upadana karma. Yeto yamani bhutani jayante jivanti preti abhisham vishanti. Okay, this much it says. It gives you examples also. Urnanabhi, forest from the earth, trees from the earth, hair on a human being. So from inert sentient beings, from sentient being, inert things, all that it gives. At the end of it, is it paroksham or aparoksham?
Till you come to Mahavakya, it's still Paroksha. So.
Beg your pardon?
Till you come to the Mahavakya, it's still Paroksha.
Okay. Yes, Anchit?
So, yeah, in similar lines, unless we understand that creation itself is mithya, it's like paroksham. Once we understand that it's completely mithya, it's aparoksham. So, yato va imani, I can separate myself also.
Yeah, all right. Not strictly true because
Because
Ishvara is Nitya Paroksha. Even though it is true, everything that is there is Ishvara. Okay, even though it is true, it still remains Paroksha because you will never understand Ishvara in its entirety. The human mind cannot grasp Ishvara in its entirety. But you can know and validate the Sarupa of Ishvara as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. Why?
It's myself.
Because it's myself.
Because it's yourself. Yes. Atma Sarupatva. Atma Sarupatva. Okay? It can be validated. So we are in a strange position actually. That the form of the Lord is Paroksha, but the Sarupa of the Lord is Aparoksha.
Because it is Upadhi and Upadhi.
Yeah, exactly. Anupadikam and Upadikam. That's why even when Arjuna got the Vishwarupa Darshanam, it is still limited. It is still limited. Yeah. It is still limited. Subject-object divide is there. Even though he sees himself inside, he is also seeing himself as the seer, one who is seeing it. Okay. But because there is some understanding logic, we don't take it as a belief, we take it as Paroksha Jnana, Ishvara. Okay? Yeah. Therefore, Shruti is necessary as a Pramanam. It can't be just logically established. Vyapti for Nimitta Karanam is not there. The world is creation itself cannot be established. Okay? Now, if you say science is establishing, etc., it's all speculative theories yet. Okay? The latest being Big Bang, it is not proved beyond all doubt. There is still a lot of data that is still to be explained away. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Prashant, you have a question.
Swamiji, when you say the nimitta karanam is not established because the connection is not seen, I'm not very clear on what is the connection not there, because we see intelligence in the creation, and that is only in a conscious being. So that is Ishvara. So what is the missing thing?
Yeah, I'll tell you that. See, that Vyapti was seen, the lack of that connection was seen. When you look at the kurta, you are seeing only the kurta, correct? But you are also seeing the cloth.
Yes.
You see that the kurta is a form of the cloth, correct?
Yes.
When you see the creation, do you see Ishvara in the same manner?
No.
As Upadanam you don't see. Alright. Then let us take Nimittam. When you see the kurta, you know a tailor should have been there. Why? Because you have an example of something that is stitched by a tailor. Somewhere you have seen something stitched by a tailor. So that connection is seen by you. Now, is there a connection seen that this world has been created by this Ishvara? Or any world has been made by any Ishvara? Connection is not seen. Neither as Nimittam nor as Upadana. So, by mere logic, you cannot establish Ishvara. Supporting logic, definitely. The logic supports the Shastra. Then the next Purva Paksha can come.
Swamiji, one more question. Swamiji.
Shoot.
So, when we say Ishvara is Nitya Paroksha, when we understand Ishvara as Vishwarupa Ishvara, then won't it become from Paroksha to Pratyaksha?
No, it never becomes Pratyaksham. When does Ishvara become Pratyaksham for you?
So when I say that this whole Jagat is a manifestation, the Jagat is...
So you are seeing the manifestation, you are not seeing Ishvara.
Is it because Ishvara is much more than the creation?
Exactly. Even in Purusha Sukta, remember? Atyatishtati dashangulam. It's 10 measures more than this. All these statements are used to indicate that. So, for the sake of Karma Yoga, to feel the sense of connectedness, you understand everything is Ishvara, therefore you feel connected. But unless you understand that everything is manifest from Satyam, and Satyam is yourself, okay, there is no connect. There is no perception. There is only an emotional connect, not more than that. Yes, Anchit, you have something to know?
Yes, Maharaj, I'm just like trying to. So when I'm seeing the kurta, I'm seeing the cloth also.
Huh?
So there is, when I'm seeing the kurta,
I see the cloth. Yeah.
Yes. So where is the difference between like seeing the Jagat and
There's no, you don't see Ishvara. Exactly.
no, we see Ishvara only all the time, no? In a way.
Correct. That's your understanding. So unless you understand Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman, it is Paroksha Jnanam. Only Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman, the Swarupa of Ishvara is Aproksha. The form is always Paroksha. Swarupa is Aporoksha, Nitya Paroksha. In fact, that is the thing. Form is Nitya Paroksha, always Paroksha. When are you going to see the whole form? Never. Your human eyes and mind cannot take it. At the same time, the Swarupa of Ishvara is Nitya Aparoksha. Even when you don't know it is there. As Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman, it's a fact. It's Nitya Aparoksha all the time.
Yeah. So Maharaj, like, just to understand it further, even my form I haven't seen fully.
Yeah, you can't see your own back. Except with the mirror. Yeah. And that was only partial.
Swamiji,
Yeah.
another supporting thing can also be that our mind is a limited instrument, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, you can also say that, right?
And Ishvara is so limitless.
Yeah.
You cannot see that. Yeah, mind cannot have that whole knowledge. Yeah.
Possible, yeah.
Cannot have that whole knowledge.
And that's what what makes it cognitive.
Yeah, that's why that understanding is necessary. You can understand about Ishvara. Even the form, some understanding is there based on the Shruti and logic. Okay? Yeah.
Swamiji, if someone has a darshan of, say, Brahma Krishna,
Ah.
then also it will be Paroksha only, you can say, or
No, the form they saw was aparoksham. Okay? Like supposing
Aparoksham.
a saint sees the form of Ishvara. Whatever he saw is aparoksham. Okay?
Aparoksham or
Aparoksham, because he is seeing it. Okay? Now the question is, how real is that? So Ramana, and Ramana is a great authority in this. No? You can't have a better authority than Ramana. He says, Isha darshanam atma rupataha, anyad darshanam manasa ikshanam. Any other darshanam is a mental projection. Now, you can take this mental projection two manners. If I want to be dismissive, I will say it is purely subjective. Because he was contemplating on the form of the Lord so much, he manifested that. Mental projection. Or I can say, it is Ishvara's mental projection to bless the devotee. If I am treating whatever that Mahatma has said as truth, after all, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, so I can't be dismissive of him. A guru is known by his students, and he had students like Vivekananda, etc. So, okay, accept it in good faith. Therefore, we will say Ishvara projected that form to give him a darshan. But it's still a limited form. He saw Rama, he saw Krishna, he saw Kali. One aspect he saw. He didn't see the totality. He only saw an aspect. So even if it is aparoksham, it is aparoksham there. Let us take that as aparoksham. But it is pratibhasikam. Okay? Because only the devotee can see it, or nobody else can see it. If it was vyavaharikam, everybody would see it. Correct? Only the devotee saw. So that is the question. How are you going to take these as purely subjective or factual? It's a big question. A big question. Out of trust, out of Shraddha, we can take it as factual for that person. Okay? But that doesn't solve the issue.
But this Swarupa is not.
Yeah, the jnanam is not there. It is upasana phalam only, no? It is not jnanam in terms of moksha. It is upasana phalam. Yeah.
Swamiji, Shraddha is the mean.
Yeah, Shraddha and this thing, that you can take it. That much you can take it. Upasana phalam. See, that way Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was a very interesting person. He would do all sorts of upasanas. Once he did upasana on Hanumanji. He actually started living on a tree and eating only whatever fruits, etc. Not eating anything else. He actually did that. If I am living on Hanuman upasana, I should be living on a tree, not on the ground. Because there is one thing about the upasana. Okay? Shivo bhutva shivam bhajet. Be like Shiva and worship Shiva. Yeah. This is what the Naga Babas, etc. follow. Okay. Basma Vibhushata, etc.
Ramakrishna Paramahamsa also.
That's exactly what you're talking, Nita Ben. Yeah. You'll find the Naga Baba like that. Alak Niranjana, Bhava Bhaya Bhanjana, Chandana Lepita, Bhasma Vibhushita. That's how they are described. Because that's what description of Shiva. So they also will do the same thing. Jatadhari, this, that, etc. Shiva Bhutva, Shivam Bhaji. That's one aspect of worship, okay? Worship has various forms. This is one aspect of it.
So,
Another worship, he says, you worship Devi first, as a mother. Devi will take you to Shiva Upasana. Okay, that's also there are interesting, but all these visions that the Mahatmas got, Pratibhasikam, Manasa Ikshanam, even if Ishvara is blessed, I will take it Ishvara is blessed. Fine. I will take it like that because, yeah.
So Swamiji, when Arjuna had Vishwarupa Darshanam, it was Ishvara's blessing by giving Divya Chakshu.
Yeah, exactly, because he couldn't see it with his physical eyes. But even that darshanam was limited because subject-object relationship was there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he in fact got scared because he...
that awestruck. More than fear, it is that being awe of something, awesome. Yeah.
Swami, that also tells the limited capacity of the mind.
Exactly. How do you conceive something? My God, it's so much. It's like what you feel when you are there in a mountain peak. And you see rows and rows and rows. Oh my God, it is so awesome here. Yeah. I'm nothing in front of the whole thing. That type of awesomeness. Or you're on a ship at sea and you get all these 80 feet, 100 feet waves coming. I said, my God, what is this like? You're nothing in that ocean. That awesomeness of the whole thing. How you're in awe of the whole thing. Yeah.
Swamiji, I have a question.
Shoot.
Why is it that, we can see the sunrise, sunset, but know it cognitively as it's not rising and setting?
Yeah. See, that is it. Yeah.
More with this. Why is that so?
Why?
Why is it that we struggle more with this knowledge in terms of owning it up than something
Because we struggle because our whole identity is involved in this. In the rising sun, our identity is not involved. Fundamental existence is not involved. Here, everything I held true about myself is challenged and jumped.
Yeah, thanks, Swamiji.
You know how difficult it is for us to give up a small notion. I have a notion about something. This is it. This is correct. Okay? And I've been living by it. Like I know this lady. I'll give an example. Okay? One or two people here also knows the lady. She believes food can heal, which is true. Lot of foods are very healthy. Okay? So, whatever illness, this lady will not go to a doctor. She has this naturopath guide for her who will put her on juices, this, that, etc. Now, how is that going to heal a solid bacterial infection? You can develop your immunity, but you already have had this infection. How is that food? Not even Ayurvedic medication, forget Western medication, not even Ayurvedic medication. Just food. Have this juice, have that juice, have this. How is that? Okay, you have a lot of citrus fruit juice. Your immunity goes up, but infection is already inside. And it is your raging fever. How is it going to cure? So for this lady, her husband keeps telling her, her son keeps telling her, no, I will cure myself. With all
sheer willpower.
Now, to give up that notion, because I have lived by it, it has worked in small cases. Small cases. And now suddenly I got a big infection. How is it going to happen? You're older now, your immunity is compromised as it is. So all the juices, etc., for them, you are taking in such quantities, now that is creating bloating, etc., your digestion is affected. Too much of fruit juices will cause that. At least go and take some Ayurvedic medication. No? So that itself becomes a big struggle for this lady. Because it's a notion that you are lived by. Okay. Now imagine a body of knowledge where your whole idea of who you are is challenged. Not just one idea in your mind. Your mind holds 100 ideas. One idea challenge is difficult to give up. Now this whole package has to be chucked. difficult.
But in this case, all other limited identities is kind of replaced by Jagat Karanam, right? So then
Not Jagat
should
Karanam.
we-
You are going to replace it with Satyam Jnanam Anantam.
Okay.
Yeah, not Jagat Karanam. No, please don't even try it. You cannot. Because you are not Jagat Karanam. You are Satyam Jnanam Anantam.
Okay.
Totality and individual differences come in. Na?
No, but Swamiji, when we say, when I own up my real nature as Satyam Jnanam Anantam,
Yeah.
wouldn't that also include that I am like Mayeva Sakalam Jatam, you know, like so I am.
Correct.
Is,
It is something like this. Okay. The wave can say, I am the ocean from the standpoint of the water. This is a small wave, okay? This is 2 feet high. It only comes up to my knees. That small wave it is. Okay? Now this wave can say, I am the ocean from the standpoint of the water. Can he say that functionally?
no.
That wave can only tickle my legs. The ocean can sink continents without a trace. Not functionally. Therefore, you won't say, I am owning up my identity as Jagat Karana. I'll say I am Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Yeah. That is why in that Mahavakya, when Tattvamasi is said, the direct meaning is your Ishvara. That is contradictory to all experience. Therefore, you have to go to Lakshana. Remember? Because Visheshna Bhava is not possible. That means I cannot be Ishvara, Ishvara cannot be, I cannot even be an adjective for Ishvara, nor can Ishvara be an adjective for. Therefore, I have to go for Lakshana. That itself implies that the functioning is dropped. No? Only the Swarupa you can say. All these nuances are there. Okay? All these nuances are there.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Interesting, I know. That's why Brahma Sutra will bring in a lot of clarity. Okay. So now you have to understand Jagat Karna. So then the yeah?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So that's why always Puja Swamiji always used to say that for the functionality and all, you really need Ishvara.
Yeah.
Whereas the new age, they just drop Ishvara.
Exactly.
So for functionality, that
Functionality always Ishvara is
Ishvara
necessary.
has
Yeah.
to be there in our mind.
Yeah. That's why even the wise person will raise his hands in prayer. Well, because functioning, no? Yeah. Now the question comes in, okay? If you need logic to understand, then the Shruti becomes dependent on Anumanam. Shruti, the independent Pramanyam of the Shruti is lost. How do you answer that?
What's the question?
Can you hear? Please repeat.
You need logic to understand Jagat Karanatva. Okay? Janmadesi yataha, yatayumani bhutani jayante, or abhinna nimitto padagana karanam, or whatever the Shastra says. You need logic to understand. If you need logic to understand, Shruti becomes dependent on Anumanam.
No, Swamiji.
Yeah?
Yeah, the Shruti is not trying to prove Ishvara. It is revealing Ishvara to us.
But you're dependent on logic or not dependent on logic?
No, to understand you are dependent on the logic.
So then the
To
Shruti is
understand what the
then
Shruti
Shruti
is.
is dependent on logic. And if
No,
Shruti
my
depends on logic,
understanding-
it is not an independent pramana.
No, my understanding is dependent on logic.
Ah, say that way.
Yeah.
It is not the Shruti that is dependent.
No,
Shruti reveals.
no.
I
Yes.
am dependent. Okay? I am dependent. Because in my development of thinking, the human development of thinking is logic based. No? Because human beings can think only in a few ways. Okay? Logically, illogically, emotional reasoning, etc. That way I can give you 25 ways of thinking. Okay? All of them are distorted.
Yeah.
So either you can have clear logical thinking or you can have illogical thinking. if there has to be certain, huh?
As far as Shruti is concerned, Shraddha is very important.
Now you are digressing. Shraddha is important. We have taken that as a granted. We have taken that as granted. Now, because I can only think like this, my mind is logic driven. Okay? Or emotion driven. But even an emotion driven mind will require some logic. Why? Because look at the steps. Yours, how the mind will work. Your sense organs report certain things to you. You have to connect it up together. Okay? You have to connect it together. There's where the logical thing comes into it. Okay? Because you're always looking at the world in as a holistic sense with respect to your sensory inputs. Okay? Someone says, Swamiji, today is my birthday, and opens up this cake box. Hot, fresh cake. It's still warm. I get the smell, the feel of it. Am I taking it disjointed? Smells nice. That is something else. It's got nice, soft, fluffy taste. That is something else. Or am I putting it all together?
All together.
So there is a logical connection even for the primitive mind. Okay? Because these connections are logical. Emotions come later. Tasty. Hey, maja aaya. I enjoyed it. You know. I want more of it. All these emotions, the emotions of how happy you became, etc., came later. So that logical connection there. Therefore, that's how the human mind is evolved. So even when people say, I am a bhakta, I'll ask them, why are you bhakta? He'll give me some logic. Hey, bhakti doesn't help you. He'll give all the logic why bhakti will help. That means what? Even the bhakta has to think logically. Okay? There is no one purely emotional. There is someone predominantly emotional. So either they'll cry for everything or become melodramatic, or something like that. If you're predominantly emotional, what else will be? Everything will become a big drama in life. The thinking is clouded all the time. So you need to have nice emotions, clear thinking. So because my mind has moved in logic, in the field of logic and emotions all the time, okay, what will I do? I need that to understand it. My understanding is based on that logic. I cannot drop my logic and understand. Because the pramana is very clear cut. But believe me, in the understanding, the logic gets dropped. When the pramana is working, in that moment of understanding, your logic is dropped. Logic takes you and the mind sees it. I am Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. Okay. True. Akhandakara Vritti. True. In the Akhandakara Vritti, what logic is there? Up to there, the logic was there. A simpler example, Chandrashaka Nyaya. I am pointing out the moon with respect to the tree. The tree is logical step. The trunk, the branch, the moon. Where is the tree there? Tree is gone. That's why the Zen statement, the finger that points the moon is not the moon. But remember in what context it is used. Therefore the Shastra that is pointing out Brahman is not Brahman. Therefore I will ditch the Shastra. Then why don't you ditch your logic also? Yup, I will ditch my mind. I will close my eyes and directly see it. What will you see? Your own idiotic conclusions. और क्या देखेगा? may get some sort of experience. Okay, dropping your logic, all this, some sort of, yeah, but that is not knowledge. Going into samadhi is not knowledge, unless you already know, already been exposed to. Then that experience can help you understand it. But that is like what? See, if I need an experience of samadhi to understand that I am Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman, I am a Manda Adhikari. Why? I cannot see the pot and recognize clay. I actually have to go to the potter, see how the clay is being made. Pot is being made from clay. Ah, barabar. So I have to reinvent the wheel all the time, that means. So, the experience, that's the whole thing. Therefore, logic you cannot draw. You need that logic. Human mind needs that logic. The mind needs the logic, not the pramana. Not the pramana. So, to an Uttama Adhikari, whose Viveka is that high to the level that I am the Sakshi, the witness, that is purely by logic you have come. See, that is also come only by logic. No, I am the calm witness in all my functioning, centered. How did you reach that stage? How did you reach there? Like that Vajramushti warrior, the samurai warrior, calm centered. The guy had a lot of logic and a lot of practices to back it up. A lot of logic and a lot of practices to back up to come to there. Then that person, when he is told Tattvamasi, Satyam Anantam, that I, the Sakshi, is nothing but consciousness. Okay, that can click. But you have to come up to there. All that is logic. Logic and a lot of practice. To come to that level, 10 years of practice it takes. Hard practice. Yeah. High degree of alertness. So how do you develop high degree of alertness? Maybe next camp in Rishikesh or something I can do it. All the sadhus there will have some fun. Okay. Put everyone in standing open-eyed meditation. And I walk around with a stick. And I can sense immediately whose mind is going off because they are standing. It will be reflected in small muscle movement. One whack, cut. That is how you are trained for all this, okay? Tuck. Don't worry. My whack will be gentle whack. A martial art whack is hard whack. So all this you have gone through to come there. So your mind was not only dependent on logic, it was also dependent on the practice. So all that it came until you came, the Sakshi. Then the next step is easy. Yeah. Next step is easy. Manasa eva anudrashtavyam yan manasa na manute. What cannot be thought of by the mind should be understood by the mind alone. Therefore, you can't drop that logic and mind to understand. Okay? Yeah. So, Anumana cannot be. This cannot be. Okay? Therefore, the Shruti is not restating what Anumana has said. By Anumana, you will come to conclusions that the state of matter, that state, like the Sankhya's Pradhana or Vaisheshika's atomic theory or the science saying about it. But the question in all these speculations will be very limited. Why? Because data is very limited. Even in science, what is the data that you are having? The world. So there will be a big question that is coming up in science nowadays. The question of consciousness. Consciousness evolutive matter or the other way around? Because science starts with a basic materialistic paradigm. Okay? that because of that there was a plasma state of matter, a super dense state of matter, then you will be forced to take logically consciousness as an evolute of matter. Because they started with super dense matter. Therefore, what triggered off the evolution of matter, what triggered off the Big Bang, etc., that question still has to be answered. Okay. It became so super dense that it triggered off. Then it becomes so super dense that time and space is included into it. What is the structure? What is the order that is there? There has to be some structure, no? Some rules of physics. Where did that come from? Where do those fundamental principles come from? Because principle is concerned with function. For functioning, time and space has to be there. Now we are talking about a principle which is beyond time and space. Because the time and space has to come from the super. So what is that super dense matter? If it is matter, it has to exist somewhere. No, it is super dense, it included time and space into it. So what is that? Then if it is by itself, it exploded, there are already some principles that function. Before the explosion, there are principles involved. Well, so it is like the scientists will say, and rightly so, lot of interesting questions come up. Yeah, interesting questions come up. But I am not interested in the interesting questions. I am interested in my moksha. Scientists can do that. That is their job. Good. I respect them. I respect them for what they are doing. Yeah. It's not that because I am dismissive in certain standpoints that I don't respect science and the scientists. No, I do. But here for my moksha, I need that individual validation. I have to validate that I am Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. And in all this, the only possibility it is because I am Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. I know I am. That is a fundamental point for all this logic. If I don't know I am, no way anything will work. This Shastra won't work. Shastra won't work. How will it work? You don't know you are. What are you? You can doubt. But that I am is not doubted. I mean, nobody says, no, tu hai kya? Puch ke batata. I don't do anything without consulting my wife, So I'll ask her. This is one thing that nobody will.
So Swamiji,
Yeah.
can I arrive at the fact that I am Sat and Chit without the Shastra? It's only the Anantam part of it.
See, it may look like that sometimes because of the type of logic I use. Okay? What is the truth of this? This is like if I pick up this in my hand and say, what is this? It's a book. What is book? Nothing but paper, etc. Okay? But to make that final jump, that it is existence, limitlessness, I am basing it on the Shastra. Is a Shastra Anukula Tarkam. It looks as though it is independently being. No. In fact, when I first used that, I thought, did I really invent a new paradigm? Based on the Shastra, but did I really invent a new paradigm? Then I said, no. Okay. If you look into the Chandogya, Nama Rupaha Vidyate. It's all Nama Rupa changes. So what am I doing? I am applying that principle, Nama Rupa changes, into this using scientific knowledge. That's all. I just made it. I have not invented a new paradigm. I just made it contemporary enough. That's all. 50 years down the line, something else may have to be said. The final particle is a string. Now, how is the final particle string? Don't ask me. I yet to explore that enough. So that will always happen. I just made it contemporary. I have not invented a paradigm. I don't think it is possible for anyone to really independently invent even a paradigm for the teaching. Okay? Can only make it contemporary. updated, contemporary, and use the paradigm so well that it looks as though it is new, something different. Puja Swamiji used to do that all the time. Yeah, same thing, but it used to look as though it is so different and so new. That's all you can do. Can't do anything more than that. Tasmat Shastram Pramanante. Shastra is a pramanam for the whole thing. Logic supports. So forms of logic can be there. Newer forms of logic can come. Theoretically, yes, newer forms of logic can come. But even that I am questioning. Okay, yeah, even that I am questioning.
So this Nam-Rupa changes.
Yeah, name and form changes, no?
Name and form changes.
Kurta is what?
Okay, like that.
Name and form compared to cloth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Swamiji, but one suppose in science was very primitive. Even Namarupa you can say scientific.
Yeah.
At that time the knowledge was limited to only
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, it's objective, that's all. Yeah. So just because we use science doesn't mean that Vedanta becomes scientific. This is a big mistake that many people make, We use argument, just like saying Gaudapada was a Buddhist because he used some Buddhist arguments. But what are the conclusions? Conclusion is Sadeva Satyam, not Shunya. So how does he become a Buddhist just because he borrowed a couple of arguments? You think the Japanese and the Buddhists invented judo? No. We do it in our arguments. Use the opponent's strength against him. It all came from Vajramushti, so it's all there. Okay. So that is the thing. So that independence of the pramana, because it's not even dependent on logic. That's why Uttamadhikari is directly seen. Logic is used because our human minds move logically. That's like saying eyes are not an independent pramana because you require light. What type of logic is that? The light is the background. How can you say eyes are not independent pramana? It's not independent of the nose because eyes require light. No. Yeah. Those are conditions under which a pramana will operate. So the Shabda pramana, because it's Shabdam, it operates in the field of your human mind. Okay. Therefore, vicharaha kartavyaha. Can you see that? Therefore, vichara is necessary because shabdatmakam. Yeah. If it is shabdatmakam also, satyam jnanam anantam brahma. Correct. That's why remember when we did Vedanta Paribhasha, Tattvamasi presented as direct knowledge, perception. Why? For the wise person it is direct knowledge. It is perception only. You see yourself as consciousness, correct. Limitless, no? Barabar. It's seen directly. Not even Shabda, he says. Not even Shabda.
But it is for the wise person.
Yeah.
That is,
Yeah.
we forget.
Because once you know it's clear. Shabda, correct. So, it has to be, that meaning has to be seen. So the Shastra therefore is not dependent on logic. Human minds are dependent on logic. Because that's the way the mind works. Yeah. That's the way the mind works. In fact, any living organism, there will be some rudimentary logic. If you are living, sentient, there has to be some logic. Even in an amoeba, that logic, seer-seen logic is there. I am different from the food. I have to engulf the food and make it me. That's how the amoeba eats, right? Engulf the food and it absorbs it. So, seer-seen difference and that logic is there also. I am not the food. I have to make the food me. Would not logic, even for an amoeba, that much of logic is there. Extension of Pashvadibhischa Avishesha. Okay, nothing new. Can you see there is nothing new? It's just an extension of the statement in Adhyasa Bhashya. Pashvadibhischa avishesha. It is not different from a Pashu. Meaning logic is there. Certain spontaneity of functioning is there. That's what he was using that. I am extending it into this part of it. Okay.
Swamiji, I have a question. This Brahma Sutra, can it give any insight to a person who is just pure logic person and no Shastra exposure, no Pramana, no
But he comes to the Brahma Sutras.
Pramana. But then he comes for the Brahma Sutras.
To an extent, yes, it can. He may have some gaps in his understanding of the Shastra.
So then the one can prove that then Anumana will work.
No,
and not
because the whole Brahma Sutra is based on the Shastra. No? It's an analysis of the Shastra. No? Without the Shastra Vakya, there is no Brahma Sutra. Like here, Janmadhyasya Yataha, Yata Vimani Bhutani Jayanti. So the Brahma Sutra is an analysis of this.
Swami, a small observation. Bhagavad Gita is based on pure logic.
Yeah, but there's
Krishna's all words are
one second,
logic.
but there's a pramana, no? It is prati pramana. It uses logic. So the pramana will use logic. Pramana can use anything. That way you can say, pramana I have to hear, therefore is not independent of perception. You can say that. But those are illogical statements. They are not logical statements. Okay. So this has to be very, very clear. Yeah. In the Shastra, you directly see the meaning of it. Yeah, but to reach that, I need all the logical understanding of things. I need the Shastra. Without Shastra, there is no pramana. There is no means of knowing. That's why the respect for the Shastra has to be there. The pramana. Okay.
But what role does Shraddha play in all this?
Because you are willing to open the Shastra and see. Na? You are trusting it enough to see whether it works or not. And you are willing to give it the respect that you give your eyes. That much of Shraddha, that is Shraddha. The same respect you will give your eyes, you will give it to the Shastra. Remember my old example? Do you change for $100? I will look and tell you. You don't know whether you have or not, but you trust your eyes that if you look, you will know. Similarly, do you know the truth? No. But if I open the Shastra and study it, I will know. That trust, that is Shraddha. That trust is Shraddha. So that is important. Without that, it doesn't work. Again. So can you see what all is involved in this?
And sir, what role does bhakti play?
Huh?
They say to understand anything or to get the moksha ultimately, bhakti is very important.
Yeah, trust is important. Without that, nothing will work. And we are very trusting as babies. Total trust. Total helplessness, total trust. Yeah. I always say, no? Just imagine the baby having a doubt. The person who picks it up will drop or not. You mean to say babies are never dropped? Oh my God. We had ethical issues in hospitals because of that. Drop babies. It happens. Rare, but it happens. Because you are extra careful when you are dealing with a baby. But if the baby starts doubting, by the time the baby is 1 year old, will have a heart attack. Cortisol, stress, all that will come. I mean, every day you picked up 100 times every day. Every day it's an alarm reaction. What will happen to the baby? But then how come we can't trust as adults? Small betrayals. Which we thought was betrayal is not a betrayal. Yeah. So, but we saw it as betrayals. And then that happened. And then some real betrayals happened by the time we came to college and things like that. Okay. So, here I am as an adult. Difficult to trust. And trusting is seen as something like naive and all. And if you are looking at some of the American serials that are there, they'll say, never trust anybody. That becomes the message. WWE, never trust anybody. Traitors, never trust.
On a total humorous note,
Yeah, you have to be
all
judicious in
statements
your-
of Trump are illogical.
Yeah.
All statements. He has never made a logical statement.
There's never been?
Made a logical statement till date.
Who?
Trump. The most
Yeah.
the most powerful man on earth.
Yeah. True. Problem होता है ऐसा. It takes all types to make a world. So it's a different-
It takes all-
But here, as
Break the
moksha, we need the trust in the Shastra.
Yes.
We need to trust people, but be judicious about it, not naivety. Naivety is not trust.
Yes.
So in this, the whole Shastra will work like this. Okay, Shastra is the Pramana for what is Brahman. Okay. Then we go into the next sutra, which says, the next sutra works at two levels. Shastra Yonitvat. Okay. When you say Shastra Yonitvat, you always repeated Shastra Yonitvat twice. Why? Because there is two meanings to it. One is Brahman is a yoni for the Shastra. Brahman is a karanam for the Shastra. To elaborate the sarvajñatvam that is said. Then the repetition is, for Brahma Jnanam, Shastra is a yoni. How do you gain Brahma Jnanam? From the Shastra. Okay. And where do you get the Shastra from? Brahman. So there are two. And how can the sutra take two stands? Vishyato Mukham. The definition of the sutra is Vishyato Mukham. It can have more than one meaning. It will answer more than one argument. Okay. So because of that. Okay. So even you will find in the Vaiyasika Nyayamala that we do, there is a pair of them for two different meanings. Okay. It takes the first as Brahman is the Karanam for the Shastra first. Then for Shastra is the Karanam for Brahma Jnanam. That will take as the second aspect. It's a small section. The Shastra Yonitvat is one of the smaller sections in the Brahma Sutras. Okay. But we will see that, and that will be in the next class. We will go into it. Okay. Good place to stop. Oh, that's Sat. And